It's about to get really warm. What's going on, guys? Meteorologist Jonathan Keg is back with you. In this video, we're going to talk about the warmth surging back into Florida as we move into the start of the weekend. And then we're going to cool things back down with another cold front, and that front could bring us some stronger thunderstorms. We're going to break all of that down. The reason is this big chunk of high pressure and a crazy looking jet stream. We'll get all into that first. If you want to stay updated on all things Florida weather, hang out with us. Hit that subscribe button for me. If you happen to find this content helpful, and I hope you do, please hit that thumbs up. Small ask, but it really does help us out a lot. I'd appreciate that. Post in the comments where you're tuning in from. All right, big chunk of high pressure in the mid-levels of our atmosphere building over the Yucatan, through the Caribbean, southern Gulf of Mexico, southwest Atlantic. That is pushing all of that tropical air back up into Florida. At the same time, we have this dip in the jet stream out here. It's going to be pretty stormy, and it has been pretty stormy across the North Gulf Coast and the southern plains. In between, we have kind of this squeeze play going. We are kind of pumping in all of that unseasonably warm air. Again, I think a lot of places in Florida, especially interior Florida, are going to make a run for 90 degrees as we get into tomorrow at the very least. And tomorrow being Saturday, we're recording this on March 8th. This is going to be for March 9th, the date and time at the top of your screen. Look at this, 7 o'clock in the morning, most of Florida waking up with temperatures either in the 70s or very, very close to 70. So a warm, kind of a muggy start to your weekend. And then as we go forward, the warmth really, really builds. Look at this, Orlando pushing 90. Port St. Lucie also in that ballpark. 82 degrees in Fort Myers. We're back to the lower 80s in Miami. This is going to be really the corridor here that's going to have the best opportunity to get into really, really close to 90 degrees. So that's going to be our homework assignment, to see if we can get an official reading of 90 degrees in central or south central Florida. We need everything to kind of push out right. It's also going to be really, really windy tomorrow across the state out ahead of that cold front, and it's going to be that southwesterly wind that just pumps in that super warm and, relatively speaking, super humid air mass as we get into the weekend. So you're going to notice that change, and you've likely, if you've been outside, noticed the transition from the cooler days of earlier in the week to the more humid days gradually. Now, notice what happens, and this is kind of going to set the stage as we move into the second part of your weekend and into Monday. Note the difference in temperature here. Here's March 10th, and we're back into the 40s and 50s. That's because of that cold front. We're still warm, though, central and south Florida, as that front really kind of loses some of its oomph, if you will, and kind of disintegrates out there. 70s still for us in Orlando, mid-70s in Tampa. This is going to be on March 10th, and then we're still in the 80s in Miami, mid-80s at that. But look how much cooler we are. Jacksonville struggling to get out of the 60s. Tally, we're in the mid-60s, lower 60s in Pensacola. So big changes coming behind that front. There is an opportunity for some severe weather on Saturday. This is mainly going to be for North Florida into the Florida Peninsula, but also you see here north of Ocala, right on into the northern side of Marion County, Fort McCoy, into Micanopy, Gainesville, and Alachua County. We're in that marginal risk, that 1 out of 5 on the severe weather scale. The line of storms that is going to be coming out of the deep south will be on a weakening trend, but the highest opportunity for some stronger thunderstorms will be in this yellow color from Jacksonville, Panama City, Tallahassee, into Wilmington, North Carolina, just south and east of Greenville. So anybody in here, that's where that main severe weather threat is going to be on Saturday. And again, these storms are going to arrive late for the central Florida area, more like the middle afternoon for the Florida Panhandle, for the right into north central Florida, early into the day for the Florida Panhandle. You see the timeline starting at 3 o'clock, and here is our line. This is the high-resolution future radar. So by 2, 3 o'clock, we're looking for storms in and around Jacksonville, maybe getting into Cedar Key at this point as well. And then eventually you see this kind of sagging to the south. We're still dealing with some storms from Jacksonville to Cedar Key, closing in on Gainesville, closing in on Ocala. And even though they're outside of the severe weather risk, Ocala and areas south, notice these little guys here that have that kind of white flare-up. That's where, again, the storms could get a little rowdy. So, again, even though we're not in that risk area for southern Marion County into Lake Volusia, Orange, Seminole, we could still have the opportunity for a storm or two to get a little rowdy. And that's going to be late Saturday night, like 10, 11 o'clock, midnight. So another one of those times where you might be woken up prematurely by the thunder that is rolling right on through. In terms of the rain, it's not a ton coming our way. We're not talking about a flood threat by any means, because it's by and large, going to be a quick hitting thing. You have to get under one of the thunderstorms to pick up a couple of inches in a short amount of time. So where it says 5/100ths of an inch in Orlando, if we're under a thunderstorm, we're going to get more than 5/100ths of an inch. These high resolution models still just can't pinpoint where exactly that storm is going to erupt. It just kind of tells the story of the evolution of the storm system, so to speak. And like that, Cedar Key, maybe an inch. We could get up to a couple of inches of rain in Cedar Key if we get out under those thunderstorms. The atmosphere is going to be juiced in terms of that humidity. That's a lot of moisture to play with. And again, that's how you kind of wring out all of that moisture. All right, pinpoint forecast for North Florida getting into tomorrow. Let me move out of the way. And a little bit cooler with the rain coming through. In Bonifay, you see the rain chance is sky high in Tallahassee. That's why, while the parts of the Florida Peninsula will be making a run for 90, we're still going to be in the 70s in Pensacola, 74 in Panama City. Apalachicola, we're at 74. And then a little bit warmer the later it takes for those storms to get there in Jacksonville, Gainesville, St. Augustine. Now watch the difference here in temperature over, skipped over Central Florida. My bad, guys. Look at that. Pushing 90 in Orlando, Cape Canaveral. We are at 87 degrees. Lakeland, we're going to make a run for 90. Same for us in Vero Beach. Again, with that breeze out of the south and west, that is the warming wind for the I-95 corridor and the I-4 corridor. That's why it's so much cooler in St. Pete Beach, because we are bringing that wind, or bringing the air from the, relatively speaking anyway, albeit warm right now, the relatively speaking cooler Gulf of Mexico. So we'll be pushing 80 degrees in St. Pete Beach. That 20% shot for rain is because we're bringing in some of that tropical moisture off of the Gulf. Really warm in Belglade, Okeechobee, pushing 90, 83 in Naples. And again, that southwesterly wind, or that south wind, is off of the Gulf of Mexico, so slightly cooler in Bradenton, Sarasota, Fort Myers, 83 degrees in Naples. And then we are back to the low 80s in the Keys, both Marathon, Key West, Miami, 83. Fort Lauderdale, we're back to the mid 80s as well. Note that breeze. We talked about this earlier, but look how windy it is. These are sustained winds, 19 miles an hour in West Palm, 16 miles an hour. We could have gusts across the entire Florida Peninsula of around 30-ish miles an hour. So it's going to be quite breezy on Saturday. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you found this content helpful, again, please hit that thumbs up button. We are getting ready to transition more into our severe weather season as El Nino continues through the rest of spring. And then, of course, hurricane season right around the corner. We have you covered on this channel. None of the hype, all science, all meteorology here. So if you like that stuff, if you like the breakdowns, please hang out with us. Hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you on board as we venture through hurricane season, which we hope for all fish storms, and that we just keep everything away from the state of Florida. I hope everybody enjoys the weekend. Have a great one. Again, watch out for those storms, especially in North and Central Florida on Saturday. Turning a little bit cooler for North Florida by Sunday. Have a great weekend.